Reputation management delivered at the speed of thought.
So that's a small snapshot of why you need to think about reputation management. But just to give you some context, I'd like to show you this, which will give you a little bit more holistic view as to who we are and why we are. So I think that should help.
Image is everything. Reputation management delivered at the speed of thought. RSQUARE Media helps clients be seen or not be seen. Be the only one your customers see on page 1 of Google, Facebook, YouTube, and more. Fake news and bad press can be removed from Google page 1. RSQUARE Media is certified minority-owned business with the City of New York and winner of the 2017 Minority Business of the Year with MTA and Con Edison. Clients love RSQUARE Media because we're fun to work with and deliver results at the speed of thought. Visit rsquare.media to schedule a consultation for peace of mind. Image.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Wasn't supposed to. Okay. Yeah, so that is a snapshot of who we are and what we do. To put it into perspective and to clarify what we do on the reputation management standpoint, we are one of maybe a small handful of companies that can delete bad press or fake news from Google. And when I say delete, I literally mean delete. Most of the companies that do this will say, yes, I can move it. I can move it from page 1 to page 10 or page 5 or whatever, but that's not permanent. And it ends up costing the client a lot more if you did that, because then it becomes like an ongoing retainer, and it's never permanent, because once you stop the services, there is a likelihood that it could come back to Google page 1, which is something that the client doesn't want, because he wants to, get rid of it. What we do is we have this service called Bazooka, and what Bazooka does, like the name suggests, again, disclaimer, I've never held a bazooka ever in my life. I've never fired a bazooka ever in my life. The information is taken from movies in which I've seen people fire bazooka, like Rambo and such. But just to continue that metaphor, when you hold a bazooka and you point it at the target and press fire,
Somebody's on. Everybody put themselves on mute, please.
Yeah, it like decimates the target. So that's the metaphor that we use for the bazooka style of reputation management, where we delete that link or links from Google so that it then becomes permanent. The only caveat to that is that the link is going to be deleted from Google for that target keyword. But if someone were to go to the original site, like Wall Street Journal or New York Times or Newsday or whichever the site is, and type in that article and search that publisher website, they'll see the article there. but they won't find it on Google. Since 85% of people rely on Google to navigate the internet, by deleting it from Google, you're almost ensuring that it's not going to be seen. And that's what we do. And people always ask us, okay, great. So, how does this work and how much does it cost? So, cost is very case by case, and it is basically driven by three variables. And those three variables are recency, quantity, and source. Recency means how recent is that story. If it's more recent, it's harder to get off, and that increases the complexity. And well, more complexity equals more work, which equals it's going to cost more. The second is quantity. Quantity is that's just math. If you have one link, it's going to cost X. If you have two links, it's going to cost 2X. That's what quantity means. And source means where is the story coming from. So if the source is something like Joe Schmo's blog, that is going to cost a lot less than if it's coming from FBI.gov or SEC.gov or Ripoff Report or Quackwatch or mugshots.com or whatever. I mean, I'm sure there are many other very colorful websites out there that take great pleasure in documenting the misfortune of others. But whatever that website is, we get that link, the offending link, deleted from Google. We offer this we try to make this as transparent and fair to the client as possible, which is why we offer a time-based guarantee. What that means is the client gets a money-back guarantee if we are unable to get the links deleted in the forecasted time frame. So if we say that, we've seen these links, there are like 20 links, and it's going to cost so much per link, and we forecast that we can get it off in 105 days. On the 106th day, it means that the client has the option of asking for a refund for all the links that were not deleted. And that way it then becomes, there's no risk. Everything is in writing. The scope of work defines exactly what the links are, as well as the keywords related to the link. And yeah, we can get just about anything off. And yeah, so that's like broadly like how we do it. And we have what's the typical cost? Yeah, so I would say the price starts at 3,000 per link. And like I say, the price varies. Like, for example, I had an inquiry recently about somebody, I'm laughing because it's just like overall, it seems kind of comical. Again, not to, make light of the misfortune of others, but just, some of the articles that come up they seem kind of funny. Just to read on the surface of it. And then again, you sometimes wonder as to whether this is true or not true, or is it all just made up? Is it all fake news? It's anyone's guess, really. So to continue the point, there was an inquiry from somebody that had an FBI.gov link. Now, FBI.gov is incredibly hard to get off, and for something like that, just for that one link, it would have I quoted the client 15,000 for that one link. And so it's one of those things where, like, the price is the price, and it's somebody uses this only if they care a great deal about their reputation. And if their reputation, like, they don't care what it is, that's fine. The service clearly isn't for them. It's for people where the use case is that something's out there and that's gutting your business, it's killing your business, it's torpedoing your business. I'll give you another example. So there was this client that found me on YouTube in Texas, and there was some story on him connected to, I don't know what the story was, whether it was like he did something like inappropriate as far as investing, and because of that, he had to pay fines to the SEC. Now, and there was that SEC story out there, and this was maybe 7 years ago. And since then, he's obviously reconciled and is trying to be a better version of himself and make a positive impact to society. And at that time, prior to the story coming out, his annual revenue was, I think he said it was $500,000. And after the story broke out, for the last 7 years, it's been 50K, it has been his annual revenue. So as you can see, the devastation has been 10x. It's been crazy. And for somebody like that, getting that link off means everything. Because if they don't do that, guess what? Maybe that 50 becomes something less than 50 as well. So those are some of the ramifications of the work that we do. One of the other things that we also do, and we get this a lot, is reviews. Sometimes clients will call us to say that they're getting attacked by competitors or some crazy people with a torrent of 1-star reviews on Facebook as well as on Google. So we have the ability to get rid of those 1-star reviews as well. That's something that we do. There's a question that says, can you eliminate tweets and retweets? No, our focus is primarily on Google. We have included Facebook as well, just from the review standpoint, but our primary focus is Google only, and not other social media. Purely from the standpoint of, since Google is a search engine and an aggregator, so if that tweet or retweet is found on Google, we can get rid of that from Google, but not from Twitter. Let me see if there are any other questions. Yelp, yeah. As far as Yelp goes, we can delete the Yelp link from Google, but as far as if it's on the Yelp site, no. So again, like people ask us, oh, is this hacking? Are you doing something? No, this is not hacking at all. This is simply a proprietary process that leverages our understanding of the Google search algorithm with changes every 3 months. And we're essentially telling the Google spider that scores the internet and takes in information on what to display in search results. We're essentially telling that bot to not display certain things based on certain criteria. And it's very extensive. I won't bore anyone with details on how the algorithm works, but the algorithm, think of the algorithm as this huge, big, thick binder that's like Facebook's privacy policy. It's, so if anyone, feels inclined to do some dumpster diving in something like that, well, have at it. But know that it's super complicated, and there are like small, tiny nuances that change, every 3 months, and we kind of know what those nuances are. And because of that knowledge and a special association with Google, we're able to deliver those outcomes. Beyond that, of course, I can't really say anything more because, like I did say, it's a proprietary process. Let me see. Do you get access to clients' Google account? So if it's something like Google My Business, and if it's a review on Google My Business, like sometimes we require access to the client's Google account, the Google My Business account. Sometimes not. It's just case by case. As far as Facebook goes, yes, we would require admin access to the Facebook business page to be able to delete those, like the 1-star Facebook reviews. I'm seeing if there are any other questions. Do you mostly, yeah, that's a great question. Do you mostly work with individuals or companies? So we work with actually everyone. And one of the questions I also get is, do celebrities pay more than regular people? The answer is no. Everyone pays a flat fee, because the fee is not driven by the customer, it's driven by the problem. And that's what drives the fee. So if a celebrity has a, FBI.gov type problem, it's going to cost the same as if Joe Schmo has an FBI.gov problem. So
Oh, great. So thank you, Rajiv. Are there any other questions? I will open it up to sort of the grid view. No, not the grid view.
Yeah, so there was one question, do you bury the link or do I delete it? Yeah, I said we delete it.
You actually delete it. Okay.
Yeah.
So are you sharing? What do I have? Let's see. Oh, there we go. Okay. Now it's at gallery view. Anybody else have questions? Victor.
Yeah, thanks, Rajiv. That was great. Now I have a much better understanding. I know we've had some conversations about this in the past, but so let me ask you this: in terms of the link, right? So there's an article. Let's say Bernie Madoff, right? There's multiple ways to find that article. You know, Bernie Madoff, Madoff Securities, Ponzi scheme, stock scam, right? So do you essentially eliminate all of those links?
Yes.
Okay. So the article basically can't be found no matter what search terms you use.
Yeah, because the scope of work will define the link as well as the search term. So each sequence of search term and link is like one problem. And if there are 10 variants of that, well, then that's 10 line items, each with its own distinct cost.
Okay,
Yeah, go ahead.
Audrey has a question. You have to unmute Audrey. I muted you because it was background noise.
Hi. So my question is, you say you can get rid of it on Google, but you can't go into social media and get rid of it. So what if the social media somehow puts it back on Google, like sometime, you know, like the algorithms start talking and they figure out that Google doesn't have it, but Instagram has it. So how do you deal with something like that? Is that even possible?
Yeah, so whatever we do is not future proof. It's only to the extent of like on so-and-so day we saw this and we're going to get it off in a forecasted time frame. Once we show that it's off, you know, we've delivered based on the scope of work. What's going to happen in the future if the client does something and gets back into the news cycle, that's a new scope of work. So that would not be included in the existing scope of work.
Right. I'm not talking about future scope of work. I'm talking about you got something off Google, but it's still living in, which one did you say was not possible to get rid of, like Instagram? I'm sorry?
I think it was.
No, so I think like somebody asked, you know, if let's say if it's FBI.gov, right? So the story is on FBI.gov or the report is on FBI.gov. If you go to FBI.gov and you type in the title, you'll see that story. But after our work, you won't find that link in the Google search result for that keyword. So
my question then is it possible that once you delete it from Google, for that link to get back onto Google?
In our experience, once it's deleted from Google outside of the client doing something to get back into the news cycle, the answer is no. Yeah, and also like some of the people that use us most commonly are actually attorneys. Attorneys use us basically like 2 to 3 attorneys, general counsel, divorce attorneys, criminal defense attorneys. They use us to mitigate judge, jury, and arbitration bias. And they'll usually use us pre-trial, since that can impact the outcome of the case, as well as post-trial, so that the client can move on with their life.
Interesting.
Do the same techniques work in reverse in terms of if there's one piece of content that you want to show up in replacement? Maybe that.
Yeah.
Can you target the elevation?
Yeah. So we have this thing called SEO on steroids. What that means is you can be #1 on Google. You can be the only one on Google. You know, so both are possible. If you want to completely eclipse your competitors, it's totally possible. It just depends on if you have a budget that's as aggressive as your appetite. You know.
Sure.
Right. All right. Great. That's fascinating. Thank you very much, Rajiv. I know not too many people are familiar. Absolutely. I know not too many people are that familiar with reputation management, more familiar with SEO. It's sort of the flip side of SEO. Why don't we, I think we've got enough a small enough group to do 3 minutes. Let's see. Why don't I hand it off to Audrey, and I will do a brief introduction. Audrey is a advertising, IP, and privacy attorney based in Florida, but she works with clients all over the country. And she helps them deal with issues like compliance, advertising compliance, and privacy compliance, et cetera. So I'm going to give you 3 minutes. Take it away.
Thank you, Michael. That was great. And Rajiv, thanks. That was a great quick learning experience. Audrey Clever-Dictor. I'm a solo practitioner, and I focus on advertising law, intellectual property law, and privacy law. And basically, I work with small, medium businesses, small, medium agencies, and startups to help them protect themselves, protect their businesses and their interests, obviously, when it comes to that part of law, so that they can launch legally compliant marketing campaigns nationally or regionally. Unfortunately, not a whole lot of businesses or people actually know that there's a field called advertising law and how it affects them, because it does. I am fluent in Spanish, so I review in Spanish and English without needing to do translation, so we save time and money with that regard. And I review everything in your campaign to make sure that everything has a consistent message to avoid false or misleading advertising suits or challenges. I also help with IP issues before you launch. Did you protect your IP? Did you get clearances for that photo, for that music, for that video? To make sure you're not going to get hit with an infringement lawsuit. And of course, there's a lot of issues going on with ADA compliance on your websites and privacy law compliance as well. Anybody have any questions? I mean, I probably have some time left, so if anybody
About
has
a minute
any questions.
left.
Okay, yeah. Anybody has any questions?
Yeah, Audrey, just a quick question on what you do. Do you work with anything to do with life sciences like FDA and stuff like that?
Right. So when I review, I always start with FTC because that is my first and foremost go-to, because they're the main ones. But yeah, depending on what the product or the service is, I add based on that, because just about every agency has their own rules. So yeah, if it's cosmetics or over-the-counter drugs or whatever it may be, I do add the FDA. If it's SEC, I do SEC, whatever it may be. So, but I always start with the FTC, let that guide me, and then I bring in everything else that we need.
Yeah, so please connect with me on LinkedIn, because one of my connections is in that space, and I think it would be a great synergy between what you do, because she's focused on life sciences and pharma.
Oh, great. Excellent. I'll send you a connect now, so I don't forget.
All right.
Thank
so,
you.
Audrey, pick somebody else and do your best to introduce them as far as you know them, and then they'll go.
Okay, I'm going to pick Mark. Mark is, we had a great talk. It was awesome to get to know him. If I remember, and please excuse me if I get this wrong, but I think Mark does a great job connecting people. He's a people connector, business connector. He also is very involved in the community. He's in South Florida like me. Yay! And we're not raining today. Yay!
True.
Yeah, right? For a change. Mark is very involved in entrepreneurship, in supporting up and coming businesses in the local community. So Mark, take it away.
Okay. Thank you, Audrey. I appreciate that. I just wanted to say that I've had some really good interactions with some of the team here, and I've met a lot of great people here. And in fact, I had a great conversation with Joy Levine yesterday, and she did something on her LinkedIn page that's just tremendous. So one of the things she did is she tells a story about her career, and I think that's probably a good way for me to go. So to start out with, I mean, I kicked around for a while, but I spent a long time in direct mail. And specifically back, I started when it was analog, and then we had these little Apple IIe's, And the next thing we knew, we were producing film with linotype machines hooked up to these little Apple IIes. And but anyway, basically at that point, I did a lot of A/B testing. So I had clients like American Express and Geico and, you know, a bunch of other people. And basically we did tests. So we would run like 10,000 each of 3 or 4 or 5. We wouldn't run the millions, but that went on for about 12 years. And then lo and behold, digital took over, and all the big guys wanted to do the little work too. So that being said, that led me into strategic consulting, which I had a background in. And when I worked for a firm that was mainly in process. And I mean, they did Kanban, they did ISO, they did all this great stuff, but they didn't have a clue about marketing. So I came on and I helped them with that. And I did that for about 5 or 6 years and was recruited by one of my clients, a private equity group. And I did that for a year, and we basically won the war and lost the battle because won the battle, but lost the war because we had to take them in a different entry than they wanted to be in, and they sold the company. So I moved to North Carolina and spent about 3 or 4 years doing work for investment banks and private equity groups, doing similar things, strategic marketing, trending, you know, and I was recruited by Lowe's, where I built a lot of programs, and that was a lot of fun, but it was also very frustrating. So anyway, we got to last 3 years. I was on the omni-channel program. We went to beta, and I came down here where I've been for 5 years, and I'm back doing what I was doing before that. So I do a lot of work in trending. I do a lot of work with market discovery, positioning, and I do it mainly for private clients and private equity groups. And unfortunately, the private equity groups often have already decided who they're buying at that point. and that's really a Chinese fire drill in a lot of cases. But because they want to know, should I buy this? Okay, I'm sorry, I'm over. Okay,
it's all right. That's just the bell. But that was great. Do you wanna introduce somebody else? And I'm not fair game until the last person because I started off.
Sure, I can introduce somebody else. I think I'll introduce Victor Lee. Victor and I met in this group, and you know, Victor is an amazing individual, very smart guy, and has a lot of things going. But right now, he's sort of running a project that relates to one specific thing. So, Victor, I'll let you take it away.
All right. Thank you very much, Mark. I appreciate that. You can invoice me later.
Okay.
So, or do I send you the invoice? I forget. Anyway, thanks very much. You know, it's nice. It's great to see somebody, you know, familiar faces, or as Michael was saying, you know, like faces that are certainly becoming more familiar. So I have one project in particular that I'm working on that I know I've talked to a number of folks on this call about. Let me maybe just kind of take a step back. My basic practice at this stage, business practice, is I try to help my connections monetize their connections. So it's sort of a two-step process. One is I have a number of clients that I work with, and I help find new business for them. And the clients kind of range all over the lot. And they can be, you know, digital signage, experiential media, family office, industrial lubrication, and things like that. So I try to mine my network and find client opportunities for them. That's the first stage. The second stage is then I reach out to my connections, obviously folks like yourselves, and say, hey, look, you know, this is what I'm involved in. I'm working with these companies. You know, do you know anybody? And if you do, then we'll partner up, and then we can both benefit from that. So the main project I'm working on right now, which Mark referred to, is one that is unfortunately very well suited for these times, and it's a super hotspot that helps you maintain a fast and a secure online connection when you're working from home or when you're otherwise out of the office. And so I know a number of folks, on this call have said that they've had problems where either there's too many people in the household trying to access Wi-Fi at the same time, and their Zoom calls, sort of conk out. Or sometimes, if you don't have internet, if your internet access goes out entirely, then, you get somebody, I've heard of numerous people driving around looking for a hotspot someplace so they can connect. So we have a very simple and straightforward app that helps people connect through their phone. They're basically using the unlimited data plan. And a number of folks on this call, we've actually connected onto the system. So I appreciate their, agreeing to be a sort of, beta testers, QA engineers, or however you want to look at it. And we'd be happy to chat with anybody else on this call about it as well. And then the third item, in terms of my sort of trying to make connections, is that I'm open to, I think I've spoken with most of the folks on this call, but just, if you just let me know who you're looking to connect with. And I can either, we can have a very quick conversation, and you can say, oh yeah, I can say, oh yeah, my college roommate's, next door neighbor's wife does exactly that. Or I'll say, no, sorry, I don't know anybody. And then we'll just kind of move on. And the classic example I have is that, Michael, you can cut me off if I run out of time.
3 seconds.
Okay, I was on a train from Princeton, New Jersey to New York. I was chatting with this woman who was sitting across the aisle from me on the train. And it turned out she knew my brother in Minneapolis, right? So you just never know who knows who. Thanks.
Wonderful. So do you want to just introduce the next person?
Oh, yes. All right. Thank you. Sorry, I forgot about that part. So I'd like to introduce Elise. So Elise is one of the folks I think when we had an introductory chat that went on for like 45 minutes or almost an hour. So Elise has had a very interesting career. She's now involved in digital transformation, and she can tell you more about how she defines that. But has been involved in e-commerce. She was also we had a mutual employer in Time Warner. And I can also tell you, and she can also tell you about her career on skates on the ice. So Elise, it's all yours.
Take it away.
Thank you. Yes, Victor and I had a very interesting conversation about the company that he's working with, the Hotspot company. But I spent the first half of my career in professional sports. I was with the National Hockey League for about 17 years. The first portion was helping to open up 10 teams in 10 years. And then the second portion was running their marketing when they were first getting into digital. And then I realized that after 17 years in professional sports, that it wasn't the sports that were innovative, it was their rights holders and their stakeholders and the technologies that they worked with that was driving innovation. So I left from the NHL and I went to work in digital media at Time Warner. That's where Victor and I have a common background. But when I was at Time Warner, I was responsible for literally creating integrated advertising for their properties across digital forms of media. And that's how I got into advertising technology. And I spent a number of years in advertising technology. And that is really how I understand really the world of how brands work. So, but what I've been doing for the last couple of years is combining my understanding of startups and advertising technology and technology in general with the world of sports. So I now consult and I connect, I identify the pain points that sports properties have and connect them with technologies that help solve those pain points, because the concept of sports technology is fairly new. Sports was, for the most part, never wanted to participate in technology. They'll do a deal with IBM or Verizon or whatever, but they just didn't ride the wave like everybody else has. And now all of a sudden they realize that from a performance technology standpoint, or engagement with fans and consumers, or smart arenas, they have to be light and agile. So the only way they can do that is by identifying and deploying new technology. So that's what I do, is I bring the two of them together. I advise a lot of sports startups that are globally and try to get them involved in the world of sports across North America. And it's an interesting world. Right now, sports is, kind of not investing any money, but that doesn't mean that the startups aren't generating revenues. So it's interesting. That's what I do. Am I done?
Yeah, your time is 14 seconds. If you,
okay.
You want to use that to introduce somebody, or does anybody have any questions?
The only person I know how to introduce, Michael, would be you.
Okay. It's fair game.
Or Keith personally, so I'm not sure who else to introduce.
You can introduce me.
Oh, okay. All right. So Michael Bendit, obviously, as you all know, is the leader of Trusted Referral Network, but he also started the marketing network over the course of decades and has turned that into a powerhouse. But what he also does is he has a resource where he accesses a number of different software developers on behalf of clients, and he connects clients who desperately need really good software developers with the software development teams all over the world. And he's one of the smartest people I know. So hand it over to Michael.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that nice introduction. Yes, I told my kids who, we unfortunately gave hyphenated names, that if they married people with hyphenated names, they should just drop all the names and call themselves hyphen, or their kids just hyphen. So I should maybe call myself also, because I juggle lots of things, but thank you for those various alsos. My primary business now is software development resources. I would say it's been that for about 9 years since I started it, representing software development teams. We do a lot of work in the marketing space and for startups. So the Marketing Network is a group that I started about 6 years ago, maybe 7 years ago. It's sort of an exclusive network just in the New York area. There are a number of members from that network who are also part of the Trusted Referral Network. And I would say perhaps that the foundation, the concept of the Trusted Referral Network was formed with the Marketing Network, but also merged with the fact that I represent software development teams and saw that as a great way for networking to enable access to a much larger potential audience of connections for some really innovative software companies that we are currently calling our clients of the Trusted Referral Network. But getting back to software development, it's about 10 boutique teams. They focus on specific capabilities. So whether it's e-commerce or content management systems or mobile or big data, they're very niche. And so I can match the client need to the right team. Because there are so many technologies and so many platforms out there, it's oftentimes very difficult for somebody who's not technically savvy to know where to go and what platforms to use. And so I help guide them to that. And then I work with my vendors, the software development teams, to close the deal and get it kicked off. And that could be as simple as just handing it off. And that works well, particularly with ongoing relationships with digital marketing agencies who may be working with one of my teams on an ongoing basis. So there's less of my involvement, to a situation now where I'm helping transition a client from a prior team to one of my teams. And they're leaving the prior team because they just weren't serving them well. And that just takes a lot more hand-holding. And so I've been doing that for months now, and hopefully we'll be able to sort of back off now that the bulk of the transition is taking place. Okay, I will introduce Ling. Ling has, I'm just gonna shut this, hold on. It's gonna ring soon, let's cancel it. Okay, Ling is, was an early member of this group, and she has a consulting business design and consulting, where she helps people with presentations. It's called DEX with the CK reversed, so it's DEKCS, which is an interesting twist on things. And I guess a lot of it is PowerPoint, but perhaps she'll tell you otherwise. And the other thing I know she does is she does site audits or advertising audits, so paid advertising audits. She's got experience doing that. It's independent, so she'll do the audit independently of, and then she would pass along, I presume, a job that ultimately would be taken over by an advertising agency. So Ling, take it away.
Also, perfect introduction. Thank you very much. Yes, like Michael said, I have a company called Dex. I do help business leaders with their presentations, from content to design of the presentations to the final positioning of the story And I do help companies and agency to audit their marketing accounts, specifically paid search and paid social. I have a background in search from vast media. I work at a few small company, small agency in the past, like Magnitude Digital, Digital Blue Creative. I also work at Samsung for a brief period of time. But a lot of what I do is auditing search, auditing social campaigns. And I use that information, or I use that background to help me build really nice presentations that help people stand out online and resonate with their audience. And a lot of the time, I pride my business on the one-on-one relationship, where I'll be the person who stand behind the business owners or the entrepreneur and let them shine and let them be the person who do the presentations, and I'll just help them build it. And so, yeah, so that's me. And I guess I only have, I don't know how much time I have left.
You have, let's say, 1:30. Any questions for Ling?
Yes.
I have a question. So for the presentations that you do you work with any startup companies to help them put together presentations?
Yes, I do. I do help startup companies. I help them, I work with them to put together the outline, and then I also work with them to create visual effects that would feel more like them and not like a template that you can pick up from any other sites online. And typically, I once I finish the project, I delete everything so that the full project is completely belong to the client. So basically, I white label the service and let them take the credit for it. So, yeah.
Any other questions for Ling?
When you say presentations, I'm assuming PowerPoint. Do you use other tools? I know there's some more advanced presentation tools.
Yes, so I typically work with PowerPoint, but we do convert that to keynotes at the end if the client asks for it. Or we also work with Google Sheets, or Canva. We can also do that. So, yeah.
Great. I don't know if you know Keith, but you could give it a shot.
I actually look at his profile right before, so I cheated. But Keith is an author, a speaker who resides in New York City. He's great with the content marketing and SEO. And I'll let him take from here.
Well, you got it exactly right. Boiled the fat, everything you need and nothing you don't. So thank you very much, Lynn. I appreciate that. So can I share my screen?
Sure. I think you should be able to.
Can you see
it? Yep. Content
culture. Many years ago, I was IBM's first collegiate rep, selling computers in college bookstores and saying, this is a word processor. This is a spreadsheet. It can really help you with your school career. And I learned to drive people into the college bookstore to learn about what a computer could do for them. And it was a very solution selling orientation. About 5 years later, in '94, I wrote my first website. I've written and produced over 100 over the last 30 years. About 10 years ago, I found the allure of HubSpot. I think they were like 3 years old. And I stumbled upon that because I had written a blog for a startup I worked for. We ran out of money after 2008. By 2010, we were really sucking fumes. And so I taught myself WordPress and I started a blog, and that got picked up by an advisor to Congress in the Homeland Security, House of Representatives Homeland Security Committee. And I was asked to testify to Congress, and that led us to Washington, D.C., which led us to Sandia National Laboratory, and got our equipment in the testing program. And then our company finally succumbed to the Great Recession. But it was a big aha for me. And a couple of years later, I developed Chief Packaging Officer for Kodak. And in about a year, we generated 800 leads. 57 of them were sales qualified, and it was $1 million product. And basically, we built an industry magazine, and we leveraged Kodak's very good reputation, although they were coming out of bankruptcy, to enter the packaging market with a really sexy name, Chief Packaging Officer. It was based on research that I found that they had done that showed that packaging professionals felt underappreciated. And we celebrated the strategic nature of packaging, and that perspective. We used some SEO, but it was just a great team of people who were marketing and PR people, and we imagined what a magazine would look like. Kodak sold that division that we worked for after a year and generated 8 times the sale price on the division, when basically all they did was stabilize their customers, lay off all the marketing people, and start Chief Packaging Officer while they were in bankruptcy and coming out of bankruptcy. So it was a highly successful campaign, although it didn't last as long as I wanted it to. But it was really amazing to me that the deal was predicated on the property coming with it. Then I developed another one.
I'm cutting you off.
So the end of the day, I now use SEO and a proprietary program that I've developed with 7 buckets to help people come up with their content strategy. And I won't bore you with that, but it really gets to the heart of the matter, and SEO is becoming more and more a part of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely. I'm going to go back to, I think, gallery view, if I could figure it out. Gallery view. Okay, that's where it is. Okay.